Yes, do we have any public comment?
Yes.
Okay.
Card? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't fill it out.
Okay.
Okay.
We don't have no paper.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Over here.
Commissioners, I read in the newspaper that the Carroll County Democratic Central Committee has filed an ethics complaint against Commissioner Frazier and a county employee over the misuse of county resources. I want to be very clear about something. In my case, and in the case of many other individuals who've weighed in on this topic, the pushback that you as the board are getting on this has very little or nothing to do with prayer. As I've told you before, I'm a Christian. I believe in prayer. I would never fault anybody for praying anytime, anywhere. What I do find fault with is the abuse that has occurred in this situation. This is abuse of power. It's abuse of authority. It's abuse of county resources. It's abuse of staff time, abuse of building space, abuse of taxpayer dollars for you to waste all this time getting yourselves tangled up in this mess that you're about to engage in this afternoon, voting on the public building use by employees. And it's, as you've said, it's all because of one individual and her personal interpretation of county policy. It's abuse. And it's absurd. Have the rest of you stepped back to actually look at the absurdity of the situation? I invite you to consider something. By opening this can of worms, if there's a group of employees, say road crew workers, for example, who don't have a space to go and meet for whatever reason, at lunchtime, are you setting yourselves up to have to provide a place for them to go, since you're creating a place for the people in this building? In any workforce, it's not uncommon to have birthday recognitions, retirement parties, baby showers, other celebrations in the workspace. These things happen all the time in most offices. But will this new policy have the effect of criminalizing these activities when they don't occur in a designated space, approved by you, the commissioners? Will the use of other spaces in this building or other buildings now be rendered illegal by virtue of room 07 being designated, being singled out as an allowable space for such use? Will disciplinary actions be taken against employees who dare to engage in organizing or attending such gatherings in spaces other than room 07 in this building? Who will police that? Will you have to create a new position to act as the building use police, to enforce the rules and initiate disciplinary action against those who dare to meet somewhere else and violate this new policy? Will the county policy have to be continuously updated to allow for naming each and every individual space within each county facility that may be used for employee gatherings? What if two different groups want to meet in the same place at the same time? Commissioner Frazier's already said she's going to personally reserve room 07 as far out as she possibly can to ensure that it's always available to her. How will you decide who gets to use the space if there's a conflict? What if there are two different religious groups who want to meet in a space, that one or another one? Are you opening taxpayers for more legal expenses when a group of employees feels they didn't get the space because they're of a different faith? We do live in a litigious-minded society. Is it really your intention as a board to grant one employee an exemption while in effect criminalizing all other employees? Absurd? I think it is. When you set about making up new rules to suit the needs and wants of one individual, when you take it upon yourselves to bend and break county policy, whenever and however you choose, you cross that bridge to absurdity. And here's something else that's absurd. You've spent most of your first 18 months in office wasting time on foolishness such as this when you need to be spending time on real issues. It's absurdity. And it's abuse of power. You sit up there and talk about opposition. Mr. Rothschild used that word a couple of weeks ago, talked about citizens as opposition. Well, there are citizens, yes, with an S, more than just me, who aren't necessarily trying to oppose you. We just simply want to know the truth. Like how much money was spent on that phony forum last October? There's still not been a full financial accounting of that. There's still travel and lodging expenses for your keynote speaker that have not been provided documentation for. Why won't you release that information? What are you trying to hide? Where are those financial records? Somebody paid for a ticket in a hotel room. We've been told the paperwork's not available. What we got instead was a partial receipt, one that had pages missing and parts of it whited out. That's abuse of power. And I am nearly finished. The county has its own legal department, and yet I've learned that a single commissioner was permitted to go out and spend $15.2 thousand on a private attorney to defend him in an ethics case. And then he stuck the taxpayers for the bill. $15.2 thousand. That's over twice what was spent on legal fees for everything else in an entire year. And now I hear murmurings that you, Commissioner Frazier, have hired that same attorney, or may be considering doing so, presumably at taxpayer expense, to represent you in the ethics hearing over this building use matter. That brings us right back around to that building use policy that's being discussed this afternoon by you as a board. It's abuse of power. And I'm not convinced that sticking that expense of those attorneys is even legal. You're creating a sideshow out of our county government. And I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you a AAA rating today. AAA for absurdity, abuse, and arrogance. When you say publicly that you are above any sort of policy or law, that the restrictions that apply to other employees and the regulations that apply to other employees don't apply to you, but you dare to take a paycheck from the county taxpayers, that's arrogance. And if you vote to approve this building use policy today, simply to appease the self-righteous motivations of one individual, then you will have proven that everything I've said here today is true.
Thank you, Ms. Grady. All right, now let's get on to the very important business of government that we do every day here.